The revamp has led to improved recruiting. 4 4-stars. Let's discuss it.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Today we explore how these 4-star recruits will make an impact this fall. Maldanado and Ossenfort will add power to the lineup for the Vandyboys and the men's hoops team. That's all I got to say about that. So thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. So part of the in-progress renaissance that Clark Lea is experiencing, and part of this in-progress renaissance is Clark Lea signing what could be his best class and among the best classes in program history. He's had now three top 40 classes in the Rivals era, the highest rating in the 24/7 era, which is 2010 and beyond. And according to 24/7, Brycen Coleman and Joseph McVay have now earned their 4-star, which makes a total of 4 4-star recruits. And those two join Whit Edwards and Dante Carter as the 4 4-stars in the class of 2024 for Vanderbilt. And they will all add oomph, which is my favorite, I guess, adjective, verb, adverb. I don't know what you call that. All you grammar people in the comment section can tell me. But they will add oomph to the lineup this fall. Man, I'm excited about seeing these guys play because I think these 4 guys are difference makers. I've talked about Dante Carter before. With him playing, he's got such a versatile role within this defense that I think he can kind of play wherever you need him. I think he's going to specialize at free safety. I think that's where he's going to add the most value. But I think a pairing of him and CJ Taylor will be really good. A pairing of him and Randon Fontenette would be really good. And sometimes when they go if they go with a 3 safety look, he could come down and play the slot corner and you can drop CJ Taylor back as the free safety. There's so many different combinations you can do with Dante Carter that I think he's extremely versatile and extremely valuable. All right. Having these guys adds oomph to your lineup. And I think it also, before I get into the individuals, we've already talked about Dante Carter, but before we get into the individuals and what their contributions are, I think the reason this adds oomph to the lineup is that also recruits say, oh, well, they're starting to attract 4-stars. What's going on at Vanderbilt? Why are they going there? Right? What's happening? Maybe I should look at Vanderbilt now. And this is all a result of what I call the revamp. Where Clark Lea has, having some sort of a renaissance in his 4th year of coaching at Vandy, kind of figured some things out and he understood that he needed to step in and essentially blow the program up and start over, and which is exactly what he's done. He's enhanced the recruiting department. He's enhanced his coordinators. He's taken over defensive play calling himself. There's a lot of things that he's done that we've talked about that I think gives this Vandy team at least steps in the right direction. I don't know what that means for win-loss totals or if there's any sort of numbers that's being put on his job security as far as, hey, you win this many games, you're safe or whatever. But I think when you see the offers that are going out, you see the people that are visiting, you see the feedback that's happening. I think they're starting to get in on kids earlier and they're starting to make some headway in that. I think the renovations with Vandy United and the Athletes Village is going to pay off in the long run. I think that's helping a little bit. It's creating another unique venue for Vanderbilt athletics. Hawkins Field's already that. Memorial Gym's already that. When that's rocking, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But when you have Dudley Field as a unique venue that promotes an environment in which, hey, you're not going to get the same things as you would at any other standard stadium. Like, you're going to get a whole different experience, and I think something that Vanderbilt fans can sink their teeth into. So I think when you look at all those factors, I think that's what makes this program attractive to a lot of players. You add that on to the Vanderbilt degree and the value behind that, and I think you get some real genuine, I don't want to say clout because it's not quite that, but like, you get a little bit of credibility now in the recruiting world. It's okay. We play in the best league. You got a really, really good degree. The facilities are improving. The coaching staff is doing some unique things and some interesting things. And I think that's going to lead to some recruiting. So Whit Edwards, he's going to come in. They're signing him as a tight end. I think that's the goal for him. He's 6'5", 200 pounds. Like, he's pretty lanky right now. So he'll play he'll get some time in some, like, I guess, wide receivers type sets and things like that. So he'll be a factor, I think, eventually down the road at the tight end position. He's one that's got to come in and gain weight. I think he's already enrolled too, so that's good. But he's got to come in and gain some weight, and he's got to just kind of learn how to do some things. You're going to have, the incoming tight end group, which we'll talk about how they're going to make an impact because Tim Beck's system is very tight end friendly. That opens the door for multiple guys to play, maybe some 12 personnel sets to where you feature more than one guy. Brycen Coleman comes in as a tight end signee. He is somebody that I'm very, very excited about because what he brings to the table is he brings a lot to the table, to be honest with you. He is, when you look at his stature, you just look at him. He's 6'5", he's 190, so he's big and lanky, tall and lanky. So he's one of those like big wide receiver guys, somebody that you can split out wide and still be dangerous a little bit. He's somebody that is physical on the perimeter and will block out there. He's somebody that you can eventually, as he puts on weight, you can eventually put him down into an inline tight end. I'm not sure you're there yet with him. And Whit Edwards is 6'6", says 210, but he's probably closer to 200 than he is 210. But those guys, as they put on weight, will eventually be able to play the tight end in various forms. So as they're learning, Tyler Fortenberry is somebody that's going to come in and kind of bridge that gap for them. But I think that when you get into some of these multiple tight end sets, you're going to see some of these guys get involved. Or you may see, if they need a bigger guy on the perimeter in 10 personnel, they may go 11 personnel and bring in some of their smaller guys and put them out on the perimeter and say, hey, guard this guy, right? And that's kind of what Brycen Coleman brings to the table. That's what Edwards brings to the table. Those are 2 4-stars that I think at that position will be the future based on the evolution of the tight end position. I think those two are kind of ushering in a new era of tight ends as far as just general for the position. No longer is it just some huge dude that sits on the end of the line as a glorified tackle. Tight ends are very versatile. They're taller guys. They're bigger, more physical guys, not quite as fast as wide receivers, but some of them can move. I'm not saying he's Brock Bowers, but that's the type of tight end that you're going to get, the Kyle Pitts, the Brock Bowers, the Travis Kelce's, the George Kittles and stuff like that. If you can be a 5-tool tight end, you can do a lot of good things. So I think you should be very, very excited for that position. And there's a lot of value there. And we'll talk about how they fit in overall to the tight end room. Because that's going to be important as you evaluate that position as far as seeing what you have. I think that's, I think you have to do that. So, but Joseph McVay, wide receiver, comes in 6'2", 185 out of Arkansas. Talked about him. Big physical guy, can run. I think he adds some depth to a wide receiver room that is, for lack of better terms, is lacking a little bit of depth. You lose you lose a bunch of guys to the transfer portal. You bring in, 2 transfers and 3 freshmen to add to like 4 legitimate incumbent guys. I think you have a chance there to really kind of make a difference. And Joseph McVay is somebody that what I really like about him is that, when you get down in the red zone, he's somebody that, you can throw a fade ball to and he'll go up and high point it. He's somebody that's physical, can run, has everything you need to succeed as a receiver. He's a bigger target. He's not somebody that's going to jump off the page at you as far as like, he runs like a 4.2 and he can every time he touches the ball, it's a touchdown. No, he's a guy that's going to catch a slant, break 3 tackles, and get a monster first down when you need it. He's somebody that's gonna run a curl route, shake a tackle, and go. He can still go the distance. Don't get me wrong. He's a guy that when the ball's in the air, that ball is his, right? And he's going to fight until he can come down with that. And so when you have that kind of player, you can find roles for that type of guy. Like he can play opposite of Jeremiah Dillon because Jeremiah Dillon is the go-getter. Jeremiah Dillon is the smooth, fast, deep ball guy. You have some underneath guys. You have Loic Foungy, who's also kind of your bigger possession target. Maybe Joseph McVay kind of gets in there and competes with Foungy as like that role. Like you need 12 yards. He's going to run 13. He's going to run 14 back to 12, catch it, get the first down, move the chains. He's going to make some big catches over the middle. He's going to run some comeback routes. He's going to be a guy that can do a lot of different things when you need it. And he's somebody that adds a lot of flavor to this offense. So that's what he means. And that's why it's important. Like that's what the talent these guys bring. Like you sign 2 really good futuristic tight ends. You sign a really good wide receiver. And then also who is already a 4-star. You sign a really, really good defensive back as well. And that helps again with recruiting down the road. Like if they're 4 stars, like Joseph McVay, his second choice, his runner-up, according to 24/7, was Penn State. That's not some like low-level school. Like he had some Big Ten offers. He's had, Purdue offered him, Tulane offered him. There's some mostly group of 5. Vanderbilt, Purdue, and Penn State had offered him. Ended up signing with Vanderbilt. Decided that what Clark Lee in this offense was doing was good enough. And I think when he signed, they didn't have an offensive coordinator in place, or at least officially. They may have like told him, hey, this is who we got in place and this is what they bring to the table. And he said, okay, sign me up for that. So excited about what these guys bring to the table. I think when you sign 4-star guys on the heels of a 2-10 season where your coach's job is in doubt, and everything surrounding your program is negative, right? And you can't seem to do anything right. People are talking about you should be kicked out of the SEC. Clark Lee should be defensive coordinating at Air Force Academy. No offense to Air Force Academy, but all Vandy is just a home away from home for a lot of teams, which unfortunately right now is true, but maybe this iteration, this 2024 version is going to change some of that. But, anytime you can sign a class, one of your best classes that you've signed since you've been there, and one of the better classes that's been signed over the program's history, or even just the recent history from 2000 on, you have to say, okay, what is contributing to this? And it's a renaissance of sorts that gives you. It's the reason that I came out with the episode that there's some optimism surrounding the program. It's the reason why I think the bowl game is well within reach and it's a legitimate goal. It's the reason why I think that recruiting will only improve from here, because you've got these guys that are good, like Dante Carter could have, let's see what his offers were. Texas Tech, he could have gone to Georgia Tech, Nebraska, Arizona. Like he could have chose any one of those places. But he chose Vanderbilt. Like, what does that say about what Vanderbilt is doing and what Clark Lee is doing. He's obviously doing something totally different because you're getting a totally different result. So kudos to Clark Lee. Kudos to the revamp. This is yet another perk, another benefit of redesigning your program and putting things in place and getting more involved and getting better people involved in more important positions. So the needle is pointing up at this moment, and hopefully will continue to go that way. But 4 stars, not a bad haul for considering what Vanderbilt had to put out there this past season, going 2-10 and a disgusting 2-10, getting stomped by UNLV. For them to sign this class is pretty amazing. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little more baseball. All right, it's baseball season's right around the corner. So what's going to happen at first base? We're going to talk about that. Stay tuned. This episode is presented by Gametime. What could you do with an extra $100 in Vegas if you were there for the big game? Would you buy yourself a great dinner? Would you put it all on red? I don't know. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way. Let me get the right thing in there. There we go. FanDuel, you got a free shout out. Congratulations. All right. So what would you do with an extra $100 if you were in Vegas for the big game? I sure as heck I would put it on red 23. Jump man, right? So Gametime is fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, all users get $100 off when you buy the big game ticket with code Vegas100. It's right there on the screen. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. So, what are some things you like about the Gametime app experience? They have here's the thing. They have easy to find and buy tickets for any kind of event in your area. You have views from all seats in the venue and the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, all of that. That's what I love. So Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets with zone deals, like you pick the section and Gametime picks the seats for big time savings. They'll credit you if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, all Gametime users get $100 off big game ticket with code Vegas100. Terms apply. Just download the Gametime app and use Vegas100. That's VEGAS 100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, welcome back. Segment number 2, talking Vandyboys baseball. All right, so this is exciting. I think when you look at what is happening with this lineup, it's just absolutely incredible. But first, thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure you make your second listen Locked On SEC or Locked On College Football. They're doing a phenomenal job at discussing all the happenings around the college football world and the SEC world at that. So when you look at this Vandy lineup, right, what stands out about this lineup is obviously the pitching. Great pitching. They're going to have a hard time nailing down a starting rotation for the weekend because there's just somebody's going to have to be left out, right? Like somebody's got to be left out because you have Futrell, Cunningham, Holton, then you have McIlvain, you had the Duke. So you have 5 guys for 3 spots, and you have a bullpen to fill. So like there's a lot of different things. Still got to pick your closer, all that good stuff. But what else stands out about this lineup is I think there's a lot of power, and I think there's going to be some wiggle room here with the lineup. And I think with these two, when you have these 2 guys, which are Chris Maldanado and Matt Ossenfort, are going to give Tim Corbin a lot of flexibility within the lineup to be able to figure out his best sources of power. Because I think when you look at the lineup, you have guys also, and what makes this difficult and a good problem to have at the same time, like you have Chris Maldanado, who is the incumbent starter. He comes in and he started 39 games a year ago, hit 307, 7 home runs and 30 runs batted in. And he seems to be the guy that's going to have yet another breakout season and be just absolutely just devastating for opponents, right? That was him as a freshman, those stats. So he comes into his sophomore season as kind of the guy at first base. So, but you have Matthew Ossenfort, who also brings power. If you watch him take batting practice, he's absolutely putting on a show. But I think it's going to be difficult to keep Ossenfort out of the lineup too. Like this is where the I guess the Tetris game with the lineup comes in, because you're going to have to get creative with how you rotate through that DH spot and how you rotate guys in and out of the lineup. Like you have Ossenfort, Jaden Davis, Jack Bolger, and Braden Holcomb, that all could be in line for that DH spot if they don't have a starting spot in the field. Like Jaden Davis is somebody that is coming in from Sanford that can just drive the ball anywhere and get on base. But like he has Diaz and he has a lot of people in his way, really, but he has Koziel as well, Camden Koziel and Vastine, Davis Diaz. Like he has all those guys kind of in his way because he can play kind of anywhere in the infield. But really, it's Vastine and Koziel that are kind of standing in his way. But Koziel, Vastine, and Davis will kind of be the three guys that play in the middle infield. So like, there's going to be some days where, depending on the pitching matchup, like Davis might be in the DH spot to add like that third bat. Like if they need guys that are constantly on base, that could be a situation. Or like Maldanado and Ossenfort need to be in the lineup at the same time because you need to have some power because you're going against a guy that you've got a matchup that could yield some home runs, or you're playing in a park or some conditions that are favorable for home runs. And so you need some pop in your lineup. So maybe Ossenfort jumps in as the DH while Maldanado plays first, or like Maldanado, stubs his toe, needs a break. Ossenfort goes in at first. Holcomb comes in at DH because Davis Diaz is playing third and the outfield spots are full. But it's a good problem to have. And I think when you look at kind of the way things are shaped, like there's a lot of creativity that's going to go in this team. Like when you look at this team, like there's a reason why they were STC champs, and they have a lot of different things. Like they have depth, man. This is one of the best like depth teams that I've seen because they have guys that can really kind of, and the guys that are performing. Like all of these guys are performing in the scrimmages. So it's not like one guy is soaring above the other. Like all these guys are doing different things well, all over the place. So like, what do you do with the lineup? And if you're listening to this, leave in the comments, like, what are you guys seeing in the scrimmages? What are you guys noticing? Like where do you think this lineup should fall? Like, I think, I'm pretty sure I think the only battle left in the infield that we'll talk about is between Koziel and Jaden Davis at second base. Like, I think that's kind of Jaden Davis's best shot at playing consistently is matching up with Koziel over there at second base. But there's a lot of power in this lineup, and I'm very, very excited about what this brings and the amount of just juice that this lineup brings. So very exciting stuff. I think the corner infield spots are in great shape with these four guys: Davis Diaz, Braden Holcomb, Chris Maldanado, and Matt Ossenfort. So I think you're in really, really good shape there on the corner. Your infield just in general is in really good shape, no matter how you shake it, slice it, dice it. I think all these guys are very, very viable in creating some much needed pop in the lineup and creating just driving in runs and scoring and helping your pitchers out. So a very good problem for Tim Corbin to have is, okay, oh gosh, who am I going to close my eyes, throw a dart and at the lineup card and say, okay, you're a DH now. So not a bad problem to have. So anyway, when we come back, that Vanderbilt men's basketball, Vanderbilt basketball in general is not in a good spot right now. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Stay tuned. All right, we're also brought to you by FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl for those who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. The cop-out answer is I love everything about Super Bowl Sunday. So the game, the food, the commercials are all phenomenal. The bets I like to make, I love prop bets. Any prop bet I like to throw a couple dollars on, stack a bunch of them, and just see kind of where it all falls. So it's great. But FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. What? So not only can you bet who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers, if you join today, you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Well. Welcome back. It is the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure you follow us on social media at Locked On Vandy. You can follow my X account right there, Coach Burton36 as well. Thank you to the everydayers for making all this possible. Can't do it without you. So spread the good word. Vanderbilt basketball. What do I say about this? All right. First, the week has not been good for Vanderbilt basketball. Vanderbilt lost its fourth straight in women's basketball to Alabama, 74-66. They just can't finish games anymore. They've kind of fallen apart a little bit, especially down the stretch of these basketball games. So the Vanderbilt women not having the best of luck. But the men's team last night, holy cow! They're 6-16 overall, 1-8 in SEC play. Vanderbilt lost 109-77, and once again, the story of the game was not that you get blown out. That's bad enough, but you get blown out in a venue that is always pro Vanderbilt, that is always hostile for opponents. It was actually hostile for the home team. All right. As Joey Dwyer described it, Memorial Gymnasium crowd was big and blue on Tuesday night as Kentucky completely outclassed Vanderbilt. Yada, yada, yada. All right. So, you just blinked and Kentucky was up 15 to start the game. Vanderbilt had no answers for anything that Kentucky threw their way. The talent gap was evident. Rob Dillingham was he was just out there at practice. It seemed like a dude Trio could get any rebound he wanted because Vanderbilt already had no presence inside. It didn't matter what Ezra Mannion did. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. They were just completely outclassed, right? It was a lot. And Kentucky finished the night shooting 55% from the field and 57.7% from three-point range. They shot better from three-point range than they did from the field. What is that? The Wildcats out rebounded Vanderbilt 50-28. Finished contest with 6 double-figure scorers, including Antonio Reed, Reeves, who was the leading scorer, finished with 24 points. Again, like big blue crowd. All right. I mentioned it just moments ago. All right. It's not good, right? Okay. You have all these injuries. Like there's some built-in excuses that Jerry Stackhouse has. There's some things, obviously that aren't going right for this Vanderbilt program that if you could probably look past. But in this scenario, I don't think you can. Like that's like when that becomes the story of the game, like you get blown out in front of mostly Kentucky fans in your own gym and they take over. Like that's sending a message. That's sending a message big time. And I think you talk to any Vanderbilt person, that message was loud. If that message wasn't loud and clear with the Tennessee game a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, I don't know. Time is like a blur to me right now. That message was doubled down last night at Memorial, and I think Candace Story Lee has to see that and has to realize, okay, we are our crowds aren't supporting. Yes, we're making money on tickets. Okay, people are buying tickets, but like you don't want the Kentucky game to be a Kentucky home game. You don't want you don't want Arkansas to come in and hear loud chants of Woo Pig Sooie, right? You want this raucous environment that makes it extremely difficult for opposing teams to function, right? You have an arena that's set up for that, and right now it's not. And I think I think it's time for a change, right? And I'm sure Stackhouse is a good dude. Like I'm not saying he's not a good coach. It's just not working out for him here. And maybe, and that's okay. It's not everything is going to work out for everybody everywhere. But like, I think it's beyond repair at this point. I think he needs a change. And I think the university needs a change. Like you can see, I can tell, and he would probably never admit this, but like, I can tell he's like burnout. I can tell it's weighing on him. The technical foul he got tonight, that was all frustration, right? That's the 1 and 8 just crushing him. So he needs a change. Vanderbilt needs a change. And you need to inject some new life into this program, because if you don't, it'll go beyond repair. And you're never going to get it back. There's teams that out there that it took, the Georgia Bulldogs after the Jim Herrick debacle. They were actually they went from Tubby Smith to Jim Herrick. They were good for a stretch of time. When Jim Herrick got caught cheating, they made 2 tournament appearances and were just bloody awful the rest of the time. Just now, are they somewhat viable? And still not quite there yet. Like that was in 2002. You need a change. It's got to happen, right? The stats in this game don't matter. It's the same stuff, the same problems. So I'm not going to break down the game. That's not the story here. The story is the gym was taken over by Kentucky fans, and it's beyond repair. Things are beyond repair. Stacks burnout. It's time for change. For his sake, for Vandy's sake, it just needs to happen. And that's really all I got to say about that. And it almost seems like a broken record, but it's becoming more and more evident every time. Now, do we anticipate every home game being like that? Probably down the stretch, yes. I don't know what your policy is on getting rid of somebody early, but I don't know, maybe at this point might want to start throwing your antennas up a little bit. Okay. So stay tuned for that. The end of the season is rapidly approaching, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave you guys off with. It's a disappointing end to a game. Disappointing night for Vanderbilt against Kentucky, and so it is, not good. So anyway, we are the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your first listen. Find us wherever you find your podcast. Check us out on YouTube, and thank you to the Everydayers for making all this possible. Until next time, we'll see you back here on a Thursday edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast. Anchor down. We'll see you back here tomorrow.